WESN.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport.
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
WESN.
Hello there, and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the program. Trinidad and Tobago, a lot has happened in the last week, but one of the stories that has dominated headlines and discussions across TNT, particularly on social media actually, was that of the case of Jaden Lalshan, who unfortunately took his own life on October 3rd. Now, the allegations, it was due to bullying, and since then his parents have spoken out to the fact that they feel as though the institutions have failed Jaden and their family. That being said, of course, there is politics involved in this as well, but we're staying aside from that because what Jaden's parents have revealed to the public is startling. It just seems as though another individual has been ignored, and even though it suggests that it was reported to those in authority or there was some level of awareness, unfortunately nothing was ever done. It's led to a lot of outrage and sadness on social media, but it's something that is not unfamiliar to us. In fact, my guest this morning has been on WESN before and has spoken extensively about bullying. So I welcome to the program psychiatrist Dr. Varma Dialsing. Good morning, Dr. Dialsing, and welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Good morning, Keaton. So it's good to be here, but again, the news that's occurring nationally is something that puts a damper to a lot of individuals. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate that this continues to happen. That that this young boy's life was stuffed away, and the thing is, as a parent, I feel hurt. I see what the parents are going through, what the community is going through, and us as a nation would be going through. But Keaton, we have heard all this before. We have heard all the solutions before. I remember it was quite in 1989. The then NAR government and the Minister of Education then was Clive Pantin. And the tutor head was Anthony Garcia, who actually went on to be minister later on. So since then, you had persons on board, persons of good caliber, persons who would have been drivers of certain plans, certain codes. And when Mr. Garcia came, I think the education minister, there was a code of behavior. So we have to know, despite all these studies, besides all these work that went through to it, why are we still failing? And this is where I think the public needs to get engaged and see. You can have how many plans sitting on your shelf. If it's not operationalized, we are running into trouble and the problems will continue again.
But exactly what are those plans, or what are those points that need to be driven home in order to help this situation and rather treat with it, so that it doesn't become a headline again, so it doesn't become something that we have to keep speaking about time and again because of such tragedies?
Well, before we had the plans where each school will have their own culture. So the principal will be the driver. So the principal will have the rules, the regulations. How could we report? There would be a no bully policy. There would also be anonymous reporting boxes for persons who don't want to come out. So these plans are there. I mean, we had plans where even when Hazel Manning was the Minister of Education years ago, the Violence Prevention Academy, people came down and gave the solutions. They gave the solutions where, you have to have the reporting mechanisms and ways that if your child is getting on in an abusive, violent manner, we could now go in now and look at the perpetrator as well as help the victim. So the plans are there. But you see, the thing is, Trinidad, as always, we have things happen, you have a reaction, and then things die low until something happens again. So I see that cycle happening every few years. Even look at this, the Andrea Barrett instance. You remember there was marches, candlelight vigils, and up to 2 weeks ago, somebody again was, I think, a taxi driver actually took one of his female passengers and sexually assaulted her. So you have all the recommendations, PH drivers, monitor them, let girls take pictures when they're going into taxis. But you have these things, but the momentum to keep it running. And this is the problem that we have. And you see, in that unfortunate instance, the parents actually blame the authorities. So we have to realize, we have to put things in place. And where could we put things in place? It has to be low-lying fruits. So for instance, we could honestly make a policy where if the principal or the teachers do not want to take on someone because they think it's not important, or the perpetrator family may contribute to the school for whatever reasons. If the parents are not getting that justice, then that parent should have another avenue. And my suggestion is the National Parent Teachers Association should now get like a hotline. So we take it outside the school. So a parent now could call that hotline and say, listen, my child is being bullied and I don't think enough is being done. Now, as well as that, as well as the National Teachers Parent Association having a hotline, which will now probably force teachers and principals to you also report it to the police, because the police has the unit that they investigate child matters, as well as the Children's Authority. So these are things that could very quickly come on board, but it needs to be followed by legislation, I think. And why I'm making that plug is that if you look at in UK, there was a lady who actually was involved with a domestic violence instance, and her, this is Claire, and there's something called Claire's Law. And Claire was abused by this guy, and when you went into the history, he was a known abuser, had a lot of court matters against him. And they came up with a law that you have to really inform persons. The police has a duty to inform persons in society who is now having a relationship with a perpetrator like that, as well as persons can now inquire from the police. So they had Claire's Law, they had Megan's Law that came about where a child, was molested, 7-year-old child in the States was molested by a neighbor who was a known pedophile. So that is where it came, where you have to have a registry, etc. So probably we need something called Jaden's Law, where the minute you get a report, you now click into idea where the school has to report it to Children's Authority, has to report it to the police. The national PTA has to be there. That law could come on board, because right now, with the Children's Authority law, if as a physician or anybody knows that there's an underage girl who is pregnant, less than 18, you're duty bound to report it to social services, the police, etc. So that is law. So similarly, any case of bullying should now be mandatory reporting. I think the legislation has to come for that.
Do you think that people feel confident in reporting it though? And I say that to the extent that since the tragic news of Jalen, there have been a number of stories that have been circulating on social media. Some have even made it to mainstream media, which is a prime example was that on Monday, a report indicated that a schoolgirl in Tobago was bullied and doused with feces. And that was reported, in fact, to the police. But there also seems to be this hesitation because there is this notion that nothing is ever done, nothing ever goes forward, nothing ever proceeds, and we are letting victims down. So, do you think there may also be hesitancy there?
Definitely so. There is hesitancy because I have spoken to parents who brought their children to me for counseling. And sometimes those children were bullied in school and the perpetrator is still there, still causing problem. And the child who was bullied emotionally or sometimes traumatized, sometimes they have depression, anxiety, they don't want to go to school. And the level of justice is not there for the parents. Knocking on doors and nothing is being done. So probably I'm saying as social media may have a positive role in this, where people could report it, and then you may get the authorities hitting into act. And I always like different tiers of action. So, for instance, if the school lapses, you have the police there. Then if the police lap, you have the children's authority. Then you have the national parent teacher. So you always have to have, in case one organization or somehow it's failing, you have these others. But it should be an instantaneous sort of reporting to all. So someone will click into action right away. And the other thing too, I mean, funding is a problem. I mean, so therefore, Children's Authority could be funded a little more to get a unit that could fast track. So anything in a school that they get a report for, they go in right away with their team to go at the perpetrators and the abuser, to see the abuser and the abused, to see if they can get involved. So I think an outside school sort of monitoring might be important to push these principles into action, because that school is really their domain. They have to make that culture. And children going to school should come to a place of safety where they can get away from the world, where all the violence, etc. And that school, if we're not providing a safe environment for our children, we are letting them down. We are letting them down.
Well, we are indeed, Dr. Yelsing. And if you would advise, particularly to parents and teachers now at this point, signs that a child is being bullied. Now, I say a child because this is really the focus of conversation. However, bullying is not limited to just children. Bullying can happen amongst adults in the workplace as well, etc. But what are some of those signs that children are being bullied? Some of them may choose to remain silent. So what should we be looking out for?
Yes, and I'm glad you said some may remain silent, because there's where the gap exists. So the gap could exist where, okay, the child in school, you're seeing a child being abused. Now, the perpetrator has that sense of power that I now could make somebody, subservient. I could now coil, cuss, and get that person under my control. We have to take away that control. So the first thing I would suggest is anybody bullied, the bystanders, also make them a sort of an accomplice. Stand up and feed the bully, because the bully now gets his power from people laughing and giving him chairs. So bystanders, they are obligated now to report it. Also, do not stay around, and because you will now be catching that network. So we take away that power. Now the teacher should be seeing it. The guidance counselor in school is very important. The minute I go to a school, I should have a friend there. As a little child, I mean, there are no other people in my class if nobody got in from my old school. But my guidance counselor should be my new person that I could go and talk, I could relate. And guidance counselor should have meetings with children, around, have a rotation where you can say, hey, everything is going good. So you have that safe person. So let's say you fail that. And the child now doesn't want to bother the parents. There's where the gap exists. So the gap exists where the school probably not taking it on or fails to recognize it, and we put things in place where even the school prefects should be duty bound to also report it, right? So let's say there's a gap exists. You find a child now may suddenly lose interest in school, don't want to go to school, getting odd pains, abdominal pain, headaches, Sometimes come home, they are missing things. Their clothes may look like if they got into a fight. Their book bag may be, things missing from it, and some signs of some physical altercation occur. So therefore, you look at that child's now ability of or hesitancy to go to school. You look at the child change in behavior, where that child now suddenly, a very lively child becomes quiet, or a child might start to get more aggressive and hit out because you might get bullied in school, but now you hit out at his siblings. So a change in personality for that child is something, that you have to be aware of. And sometimes you find a child may now figure that that there's no door open for me to get that release from this bullying. And there's where we fail, not giving a child an opportunity to say, I can reach out for help at this person, for that person. The problem is, as I'm saying, is if you look for those signs, you as a parents have to try and see now what's going on in school. Try to chat with the children. But some children, sometimes they just wall off. They don't want to speak to the parents. They don't want to tell the parents anything, especially certain people, children going through the age of puberty. They may figure, I can handle it on my own, or don't want to bother parents. But therefore, look out for that child. And the school, go into the school, try to find out what's going on. If you have the prefect system of reporting, or you speak to the teacher, hopefully you'll garner some information, something is happening in that school.
Now, the other aspect of it, and you mentioned it just now, was the power or control that bullies think that they have and feel that they have over victims. And oftentimes, in that regard, sometimes victims don't want to speak out. The level of fear of the repercussions exist for speaking out as well, which to a certain extent empowers a bully. But how do we take away that power? How do we diminish that level of control that such a bully would have or win over their victims?
Well, I say neuter them by taking away their audience. So if I'm doing something to feel powerful in front of the other students, once the school rule is, you see an evidence of bullying or some sort of discrimination occurring, because you could call people all sorts of things, fat, smelling, stink, ugly, you're poor, those hurtful words, once you see that, you take that audience away, where they will now move out, go on, report it to the dean, to the guidance counselor. So, because if they are present, they are also be deemed part of the accommodating in them. So you move that audience. And then the other thing too, the school culture should be such that if you are accustomed cursing at home or hearing people teasing each other, or even our political leaders having sort of aggressive language out there, you hear that out there. But when you come into that school compound, you now supposed to have a new ethic, a new culture. So we are teaching children how to be better citizens by, looking at the rules of the school and realizing I will leave any bad habits I've seen home in society. But the minute I enter this school, there's a new sort of a culture inside the school, new ethos that we have to bend to. And that's how you treat or teach people how to be civil, how to be kind to others. You see, it's not just book sense we should have you coming out of school with. You should learn how to treat people in a civil manner without hurting people's feelings. And remember, children will tease. That's a normal thing in school. And you find that children will tease as part of a group sort of stuff. But you have to recognize when teasing starts to go into the domain of harassment and bullying. There's where we know to teach that child. Because a child may not know, they tease me home, or I will just tease somebody, you have a big nose, or this and that. Now, if by teaching them to be better citizens by not insulting people, that is something of social learning. We are teaching them that in school. However, we want to teach the victim to put his hand up and say, look, you told me hurtful things. What do you mean by that? Why are you saying that? So we have to empower the victim also as part of the school culture to say, speak out also. Because you go out in society and you may be bullied in the workplace, you may be bullied driving down the road. You have to know. But from coming into that, you're teaching the victim how to stand up and say, listen, and I have the guidance counsel in my on my side also, so I can go there. So it's really the continuation of the bullying that will feed the perpetrator to continue the abuse.
Dr. Dale Singh, how much of this is us letting each other down? Young people, youth would look to us, adults, and the way we speak, the way we act, will obviously have impressions upon them, and even by the response on social media where people were outraged, their comments were very, very strong in many of cases, and might not be necessarily aware of all the details, but they certainly share their very, very strong opinions, which could be in some instances deemed as very derogatory or irresponsible. But generally speaking, are we failing each other because of our words and our actions as adults, not even knowing how to deal or express our anger in a healthy manner?
Yes, that is so. Because we found that the world is getting more angry in terms of the outbursts, the death rage we are seeing, road rage, interpersonal relationships. So the world is a world filled with anger. And probably frustration, probably post-COVID, probably the economy, all these things could have people that level of frustration. But you see, if we don't curb it, we are now, we will now continue that cycle. But where do we stop that cycle? And I think the school and the school culture is a way we could teach. Just as we teach a child ABC, we teach them manners, we teach them anger management. I've always called for, just as how we have physical education in school, we should have mental education classes. Why I've called for that? Because you don't know which child has problems at home, which child will have problems dealing in class, and having mental ed classes. It's something that it's something that it's vital now, because remember, the World Health Organization and PAHO, they have said that mental illness going to mushroom, is going to get bigger. So if I am seeing adult patients in my clinic, I go back and say, but how could I get back to that adult? How could I, if I had gone back in time, get that as a child in school being bullied or having something home that is, affecting that child? I could have given that child support systems, some sort of support. And that child may not have been may not reach the stage where as an adult, you're now having that baggage and now having mental illness. So to help mental illness, we have to go back at the classroom when they're coming in there. And you know something, Keaton, someone called me and even told me it's not just the students bullying, sometimes how teachers speak to some of the children in a manner that could actually make a child feel that I'm worthless, I'm here learning, and the teacher's insulting me. So all these are things, the classroom culture and ethics, that we have to look at. How our leaders speak out there. All these things will affect us. So what children see outside will affect them, but we can change it. We can change it from that classroom. But we have to get the education systems have to supply staff for them. Some schools are saying they don't have deans, they don't have teachers, they're not getting a time replacement. So how could I be asked as a teacher to have these new responsibilities, to be like a psychologist, a nurse, etc.? And I am now short staffed to have more demands on the ministry. You have to make teachers happy, but making teachers happy would give us a society that will be happy in the long run.
Well, we can change it if we want to, Dr. Dale Singh, as you started off, this morning's interview. You pointed out that historically, the reports exist, the recommendations exist. It's a matter of actually implementing such. And you've given some very good points this morning. Dr. Dale Singh, unfortunately, though, we are out of time. So I'd like to continue this conversation at a later date. But thank you so much for your time this morning. And we look forward to the next part of this conversation.
So, welcome, Keaton. Thank you.
All the very best. Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Dr. Dale Singh, as well, for joining us on the program. As I mentioned, I'd like to continue the conversation. There is a lot more to be said in relation to bullying. As I mentioned, bullying doesn't just affect teenagers or children within the school system. And one must also ask themselves, if it's not dealt with when they face this as children and teenagers, what are the effects mentally upon them and even socially as they graduate into their adulthood? But as I said, it doesn't affect just them, it affects adults as well in the workplace. It's something that needs to be dealt with. So, ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to that part of the conversation in due course. For now, let's take a break here on the program, and when we return, we have another topic of discussion to get into this morning. Stay with us.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus, quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport.
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for staying with us this morning, focusing now on another topic. And these statistics, which were reported earlier by a national newspaper, were quite alarming. The question is whether or not it was surprising. It says that in the last 9 months in Trinidad and Tobago, so from January of 2024 to September of 2024, 120 children have been arrested and charged with crimes. And this is data from the Crime and Problem Analysis Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Now, for the corresponding periods between January 1st and September 30th, 2021, 143 children were charged. In 2022, this increased to 181 children. And in 2023, we saw 239 children. So there seems to have been a decline since 2021 in the figures up until this point. At the end of the year, further figures would be very much, we need to get a better understanding of that. But would you believe that the number one charged, children have faced when arrested by the TTPS is that of possession of arms and ammunition? The second highest being crime committed by children, and that of armed robberies. Again, I ask you, is this at all surprising? The figures are alarming, but should we be surprised? Oftentimes when we see these reports being released by the TTPS, and you take a look at the age of these criminals, 20, 23, 19, 18, even some as young as 8 years old have been apprehended by the police. I'm joined this morning by the founder of the Roots Foundation, a gentleman who we've had extensive conversations with on AM Prime before, Mr. M. Tima Solowasi. Good morning, sir. Welcome back to the program. It's good to see you.
Yes, good morning, Kita, and good morning to your viewers and listeners locally and across the globe. Thanks for having me again.
So, Mr. Solwazi, I wonder if you can answer that question for me from a personal standpoint. Is this at all surprising to you? We will always be taken aback by such figures, but given the reporting and given what we've seen from the TTPS in their operations and the apprehension of suspects, they always seem to be getting younger and younger.
So, good morning again. I read the same article and I reached out to my team at Roots Foundation to begin a discussion on said article because for me, yes, it is alarming, but it's not surprising, unfortunately, unless I was living in a different Trinidad and Tobago from the population. Children in crime is nothing new, right? As I quoted the statistics earlier, for 2024, 120 children arrested, right? And they gave a breakdown of 109 boys and 11 girls. Now, using the same figures, Kita and Nation, they also said that of that figure in 2024, that 120, 39 were detained or remanded or accommodated, whatever words you want to use, at the Youth Transformation and Rehabilitation Center, YTRC, formerly YTC. 39 clients, 37 boys and 2 girls. So we have that same period, 120 children arrested, but 39 at YTRC. Where is the 81? If you do that quick maths, Kita, where is the 81 children from that 120 that were arrested? Are they dead? Are they outside still? Because only 39 in YTC. But I want us to look at that figure for 2022, and I want to bring up the National School Discipline Matrix that the Ministry of Education did for the period April to July 2022. In 2022, they said that 181 children were arrested, 170 boys, 11 girls. But in 2022, 47 were at the YTRC, 43 boys, 4 girls. Where is the 134? So as much as these statistics are alarming, when you go deeper into it, you realize that we have a serious problem. In 2022, the ministry did a National School Discipline Matrix, look at children from Forms 1 to Form 3. The TTPS said in 2024 the crime was 34 for 51 for ammunition, arms and ammunition in 2022. In the school discipline matrix for possession of weapons between the period April to July 2022, 58. Threat with weapons, 6. For that same corresponding period, CAPA reported 309 cases for firearms and ammunition. Is there a correlation between some of those who were held in school with those items held by the TTPS? Robbery and theft, 48 in the schools. Extortion and taxing, 11. CAPA, robberies, 701. And the last category I want to look at is assault with weapons, 29. Fight with weapons, 29. CAPA, wounded and shootings, 209. So, yes, we have a problem, but it didn't start in 2022. It did not start in 2021, right? And do you remember the Dolcedi, the famous or infamous Dolcedi gang? There was a young man who was hung with that group called Stephen Eversley, also known as Brains. If you look up on the internet, you're not getting the date of birth for Stephen Eversley, but you know the death, which was 1999. That was when they were hung. I knew Brains personally. And Brains was involved in armed robbery from the age of 7. That was back in the 80s. I've been trying to do the math over the weekend. I say, if I met Brains when he was 7, I was 13 thereabouts. Give or take, Brains would have been 21 when he was hung. But they were arrested in 1994. That means Brains would have been 16 years old when he committed that heinous crime. And that's just one individual who I know personally. I'm sure your viewers, your listeners could recount many young people they know who began into crime early. Right? And the last anecdote I'll give is Ja David, or David Andrews, right? Who deceased Uncle Roy and Auntie Gloria took under the wing. I again knew him personally, and he was involved in gangs from age 7, right? He died. He was killed in 2013 at age 33. I'm talking about I knew him back in the 80s again. So this is nothing new, unfortunately, to our society. The question is, what are we doing? And I hope we could touch on that a bit before this interview ends.
No, let's touch on it now. That's the whole point about it, because even reports from police indicate that children as young as 8 years old are involved in extortion. Children are being used as lookouts by the gangs, and even being used to hold weapons when police are conducting raids or searches. That's according to the yes. The thing is, Mrs. Alwati, these are children who are not even graduating beyond primary school, but they're graduating amongst the ranks of gangs and criminal organizations in TNT. So is it that society is structured in a way that we're not teaching children right from wrong?
But no, as a colleague of mine said to me last night, right, sharing this with her, she said, Mtima, I'm starting to feel upset because children in crime is a societal issue, and we fail to take responsibility, right? Now, listen, the article was well written. I applaud that journalist. The article went on to say that the police reported that when they have a tough time in East Port of Spain, when they're making raids, that the children are alerting the gang members. Question, what time are these raids being conducted? Is it in the morning, during Monday to Friday? Why are the children not in school? Is it in the night? Why are they not inside? Is it in the afternoons? Why are they on a block? Right? So, yes, it's one thing for us to say, boy, the children are, and that is nothing new. When I was young, I was a lookout back in the days. And when I read the statement, I just said, the children say, I find that a long statement. They come in. I find that a lot. When we were younger, the code was cuckoo, cuckoo. And once you start to hear that cuckoo sounding out, police organize themselves, right? So if the code is now a whole sentence, right? The question is, why are these children outside? Okay, there's a sociologist called Elijah Anderson, and he did some intensive study in the Chicago communities, in the city communities. And from the communities, he came up with 2 categories of families, the decent family and street family. And he came up with a concept called the code of the streets. What we are seeing rolling out here is exactly that. The code of the streets, a set of informal rules governing interpersonal public behavior, including violence. Right? That was a study done back in 1994 by Elijah Anderson. So you have the decent families, you have the street families, or the street-oriented families. And there are rules governing these 2 groups of people. And if you look at your community, for instance, a friend of mine was saying, when she was younger and girls outside in the evening, her mother would say, where are their mothers? Where are the parents? Because street children roam or street-oriented children, they have no curfew. They roam the streets, right? They have no accountability. That behavior is encouraged by some adults, be it parents or other adults in the community, right? So we have to first understand that scenario and understand that, hey, how to treat with these children, right? Do you know, and I'm going straight into that, do you know that in Hennepin County, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in the United States of America, at present, now as we speak, they have a mandated curfew for children? I visited that county in 2017 as part of the International Visitors Leadership Program organized by the U.S. Embassy Port of Spain, right? Or through the U.S. Embassy Port of Spain with a Department of State program. And when I saw, we were at the sheriff office, and I saw they had a curfew, I was amazed. Under 12 years of age, the curfew during the week, 9 p.m. On weekends, 10 p.m. Well, you know, sun has set late over there, based on, you know. So it's not like the outside till 99. It's like a kind of, right. 12 to 14, 10 p.m. weekdays, 11 p.m. on weekends. Ages 15 to 17, 11 p.m. on weekdays, midnights and weekends. So it's only for COVID and state of emergency we could have a curfew. We cannot really take this thing wholly bull by the horn, like I like to say, and protect our children. Also in Hennepin County, the whole parents are accountable. If your child is outside of the curfew hours, the whole parents are accountable.
Sometimes, Mr. Solwazi, I wonder, you know, how many parents are actually aware of where their children are at certain points throughout the day, particularly if they're not in school. You know how many parents are actually aware of this? Now, people are going to argue, you know, it's a tough job for parents. They have to work.
Yes,
they
I
don't
agree.
have time.
I
You know,
agree.
but what you are putting forward here, what you're speaking about, is a structured approach to dealing with this situation.
But you have to have it.
But you have to have it. But as you're pointing out, this is something that's not new to us. This is going on for decades. So why is it that we don't have it? Why is statistics always have to keep coming back to us?
Because we like numbers and we don't want to deal with the number. In 2011, January 11th, a newspaper, a national newspaper, reported that the then Minister of Education, Tim Gopison, asked the question, where are 4,000 pupils from on the school system? And I want to read the Minister Gopison said yesterday, right, at a launch, right? I'm sorry, he had launched, he launched a nationwide search for pupils, many of whom are feared to have turned to a life of crime. We reported that in the newspaper. What have we done as a society since 2011 to address 4,000 children who are missing from the education system? I didn't get a chance to look for an article recently again. An alarming figures, students missing them, with them best be calling the search and rescue team. We so comfortable to say students missing from the school system. We cannot be comfortable saying that, Kita, a nation, right? And we have to understand, I'm saying this here publicly, America has a school to prison pipeline. We do have that. You know why we do have that? With the population as of October the 2nd in YTRC, 47. So we do have a school to prison pipeline. And I heard a opposition MP taking my thing. We have a school to gangs pipeline. I've been watching this trend for years. The population in YTRC, even as YTC, have been dropping. And back in those, I've been volunteering to YTC since 2005, thereabouts. And I was happy. I said, woo, you You know, the population going down, but then crime on the outside on the rise
No,
amongst children.
Mr. Salwazi, sometimes I wonder if that is being devil's advocate, and I'm expressing my true opinion here. I sometimes wonder if that's a deliberate thing because it's cheaper to leave these juvenile offenders on the street. It's cheaper to let them succumb to their own actions or their own participations than for us to deal with them, than for us to take them in and to try to rehabilitate them. It's just cheaper to let the consequences of their actions, deal with them and deal with the situations.
I agree, and I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers would also agree. And I'm not here painting doom and gloom, right? Because I love to read comments on social media. It's not about doom and gloom. It's about we have to do something and we can do something. And I want to commend a lot of and we're in a silly season, so I have to be careful, everybody, you know, campaigning. But I really, you cannot not commend Minister Foster Cummins and Shampa Kujo Lewis for some programs they have implemented, especially that Empower with Minister Shampa Kujo. They're doing a lot, right? But we have to go younger because you realize the caption for some of these programs is from 16 up. And I know the ministers are looking at that, right? But we have, the Children's Authority has to understand that we have to go younger and engage. I remember deceased Father Pantin many years ago, visited a preschool, one of the preschools that are under Silval. And at the preschool, a child said, "My daddy have a big gun." Just innocently, you know, unprovoked. The child probably saw the gun and so excited that my daddy have a big gun. And Father Pantin remark to us was, there is where we have to start. There is where we have to start. Right? East Port of Spain is plagued with petty crimes and some serious crimes. And, you know, I'm telling a colleague of mine, I say, is year in, year out, decade in, decade out, we have to be fighting this. Some of the guys who used to be snatching chain, robbing people in Port of Spain, either they're dead, they're in prison, or they grew out of it. But yet still, you have that problem in East Port of Spain, in that Port of Spain area, because they're getting younger and younger. Some of them are the siblings of the family, or cousins, or just neighbors seeing this culture, right? And just adapting to that, right? So we have to do more. I know the police youth clubs really engaging. I think it's from 5 years old. We have to be, this is good, we have to be more aggressive, right? Because it is a problem. Look at the statistics, right? I just quoted 2 young men that had public prominence, if you want to say, Stephen Eversley and Jar David, right? And I knew them personally. They started at the age, when I met them, they were 7. They could have started earlier. And that's scary to see they started earlier. But when I met them, because they told, I asked, but small man, where's your age, boy? I 7 years old. That's what they told me. Unless they're lying, right? So that was in the 80s. We had 7-year-old criminals because Brains was already robbing, armed robbery, and Jar David was already in gangs.
You know, you just said something that we have to be more aggressive. You think, and this is how society has become.
No, when I say aggressive.
No. Before you can, because an aggressive approach is probably needed at this point. Aggressive not necessarily meaning violent and aggressive.
Yeah.
No. But aggressive approach means we need to be strong in our position.
Yes.
And we need to be strong considering the circumstances. You think that parents who, and I personally think that parents should start being held accountable for the actions of their children, but that's a different topic. Do you think that society as a whole would be accepting of that? Society has become a place where we don't accept discipline. We don't like being corrected. You know, do you think that is something that even then will see some success in TNT. And I guess it depends on how you define aggressive too.
No, I go back again. Public safety and emergency management, Hennepin County curfew, and parents are being held accountable. We joking, boy. I will endorse that. I was telling my wife only this morning, years ago, I driving through that Mova area, all through the back road, not only Lady Young, right, all through the back and coming through the different communities. And I saw scores of young men just on the block linemen. And I started to do a process of elimination, a positive process of elimination. I say, okay, some of the younger ones, they're probably on suspension. Some of the older ones probably worked last night, or they're working tonight, or today's the day off, right? If we remove that from the equation, what is the reason for so many young men on the streets during daytime hours, during the week? I mean, there's dropouts. That means exactly what the UN talk about now. They're not in employment, education, or training. They need. That's a new term now. They need. They're not in employment, education, or training. And if years ago that bothered me, that doesn't bother anybody else or what? And I've been aggressive now with that statement. And then somebody will ask, what are you doing? Hey, trust me, boss. We're doing plenty. And I want to throw this out now to the nation. Get involved with NGOs, NPOs who on the ground, because we're doing the work. Not just Roots Foundation. I have many others. I could call the names now. Right? Because we know each other. We support each other. Get involved with our NPO and go into the communities with them. And if I cannot go into the communities for whatever reason, I respect that. We respect that. Put your money. Kita, this is me being aggressive here. Put your money, right? And if you don't have money to put, give us a network. Give us a connection. Hey, Kita, you know this man, what's his name, boy? Empty Martin, yeah. Roots Foundation, check them out. Put us on to a network because you have networks. There's no excuse, Kita and the nation, why we cannot solve this problem and turn this thing around, right? Everybody have a responsibility. We like to talk about crime is everybody's business, and not everybody business to make a dollar, you know. Everybody business to make an intervention. And I'm saying it again, reach out, and everybody know all the NPOs. They're always on Facebook, either promoting what they're doing, asking for money. We always on Facebook. Instagram, all about the place. Reach out to us.
I was just about to say, Mr. Solo, as you said, we all have a responsibility and a role. When it comes to us understanding, accepting, executing our responsibilities, it seems as though we always like to shift such responsibilities and even such blame upon everything and everyone else.
We like to play ping pong. Yes, so passing by. Yeah, it's your Kitan. It's you. Kitan is you. But here we have to know. If you want to play ping pong, no problem. Here what you need to do, nation. Hold the ball in your hand and make a proper serve. Start to serve in your nation. Start to serve in your community. We have a responsibility. So I don't mind you want to play ping pong. Pass the ball. Oh, yeah, Kitan, you. Kitan, no, you. Okay. At one point then, Kitan, you have to hold that ball in your hand. Okay, you want to squint? Hold that ball in your hand. And gauge your serve. And make a nice serve in your communities. Right? Don't feel it's somebody else's problem. Right? It's PNM problem, UNC problem. It's everybody else's problem besides our problem. And I'm not bashing anybody like this with this statement here, but most of us has come out when unfortunately it reach home. No? Malcolm X said it beautifully, you know, they come on the roost, right? And that we cannot wait for that to come out of that placard and come out with this and come out with that. The interview you had it just before, no? And you and the interviewer said that this is not a new thing, bullying, you know? So why we pretending that, you know, all right, so it's when it's extreme, look what happened, it reaches the extreme. The placards come out and the social media warriors come out and everybody come out now when we should be addressing this thing because we know, you know, because again, we are a culture picong. I like to get, why? You know how big your head is, why? Why did I not? You know, we like to get picong, right? But we've seen it, the effects, the devastating, detrimental effects of picong, you know? So, but going back to our children, anybody can type it in, Hennepin County curfew, right on the website. They have a curfew, right? Why we cannot implement a curfew to get our kitten? What you doing outside Lyman after 10 p.m. in the night?
I personally will tell you that I don't even bother to go outside my house once the sun starts to set. I try to avoid going out. I mean, I like to socialize and all that, but lately I've been taking a step back. So
A child might say, Mommy, I'll line with my friends and them. That line could continue during the daytime.
imagine a kid saying, imagine a child now saying alignment. Imagine that now. I mean, as I said, kids are not graduating primary school, but they're graduating up the ranks.
And it's not now, eh? It's not now. You called some ages earlier. Franklin John, aka Weasel, who was the head of the Young and the Restless back in the 80s in Maloney Gardens. When he was killed, when I was young, I didn't really make sense of it until I got older. But when he was killed, he was 22 years old. So as an adult, now I'm saying, but wait now, how old Weasel really was when he was the leader of one of the most notorious gangs in Trinidad at that time, that era. He had to be around 15, 16, boy. Because he was killed at age 22. Bulls. We know Bulls from Toots and Bulls. When Bulls was murdered, he was also 22. But I remembered when we heard about Bulls, he was 16 years old when we heard about him. He was a hired hitman. Peter, there's the 80s, you know, boy. There's the 80s, you know.
And look at us talking about now. Look at us talking about now. Mr. Salawazi, we are a bit over time, but we're going to have to pause it there for now. I want to thank you for joining us on the program and, giving it some historical context as well. Thanks so much for your time as always. And we look forward to the next.
Thank you very much for your for the interview. And remember, get involved, serve. Let's serve nation. Thank you, Kitan.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much. All the very best to you and your continued works with the Roots Foundation, to the entire team. Thank you guys very much. All the very best. Well, ladies and gentlemen, take home that message. Get involved. And when I say get involved, when Mr. Salawazi says get involved, we don't mean any wrong things. Most of us are already involved in that and so occupied by all these things, we tend to forget our roles and responsibilities for each other. Yes, we become selfish where we have to look out for our personal safety, but we also have to look out for one another. And I know you may say, well, people won't accept help. People don't need help. Sometimes people don't even recognize when they need a helping hand. You should do a job in trying to execute that. All right, let's take a break here on AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. And when we return, started off some very heavy discussions this morning. We're going to end with Wild Wednesdays, so stay tuned for that after this.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Wild Wednesday, and I think we have a bumper week. Do we have a bumper we could play for Wild Wednesday? I believe we do. Anyway, that being said, hopefully they'll get it in a bit. I'm pleased to welcome Ricardo Meade and Jeremy Lewis back to the program. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having us here. Another Wild Wednesday.
Another Wild Wednesday indeed. Jeremy, how are you doing?
Pretty good, yeah.
Now, we know when Jeremy appears on the show, it means that there's more than ever just one thing, which is my favorite, and those are the snakes. Jeremy, what have you brought with you today?
So, today what we have the Trinidad blackback snake, or locally called Dr. Snake. Next, we have the cat-eyed snake, or the false mapapee.
Oh, the false mapapee.
False mapapee.
Good. So I've heard of it before. I've never seen it at all. Why? False mapapee, I would assume, non-venomous, looks very much distinctly like a mapapee. But then, how do you tell the difference? What are the telltale signs?
So it doesn't look all the way like a mapapee, right? There are certain, oftentimes people mistake them for the mapapee due to the coloring and the patterning, etc. Right? But there are clear differences. One, this species of snake doesn't get too large, right? So I'll pull this little one right out here. So this is as large as they get, slightly a little bit longer, right? And you can see that cryptic spotted pattern to the back of it there, right? Now, these snakes, believe it or not, are mildly venomous. However, we don't categorize them because as venomous snakes in Trinidad because they do no harm to humans, right? Their venom is more adapted to take on small animals like lizards and whatnot. To larger mammals like humans, they wouldn't pose much of a threat.
He seems to be a bit prickly.
Yeah. Now, these snakes are quite common around, or again a little bit feisty, so I'll just put them back.
But if they were, I mean, they're small, could they bite a human?
They could.
And if they were to, what would be the effects if there is mild venom?
None at all. So when you look at the anatomy of these snakes compared to the pit vipers have front fangs, right? With muscles that squeeze and inject venom. These guys have rear fangs. So it's just like these little teeth to the back. And what they have to do to secrete that venom, they have to like chew on their prey, right? So one, usually if it is a snake is going to bite a human, it's more of a defensive, stay away from me kind of bite.
So it's strike, yeah.
Correct. In order to get those toxins into their prey, they have to hold on to it for a significant amount of time and chew on it, right, essentially. So hold it in place. And then it just almost paralyzes their prey, just enough to make them able to swallow that prey whole.
Oh, wow. Ricardo, who's the guest you've brought with you?
Well, this is Dr. Shaw.
Dr.
Shaw's black-backed snake, also known as a doctor snake. So, also known as Bebel Shemin.
I thought he was going to say Dr. Hyde or Dr. Jekyll.
Bebel Shemin. So, it's a beauty. It is actually, for me, one of the most beautiful snakes. The beauty is really in the details in the snake. And it's a snake that you will hardly ever see. Most people pass it by all the time. I mean, right in the enclosure right now, you can look down and it's barely visible.
Yeah.
It's barely visible. So imagine it out there amongst leaf litter and debris and the dirt and so on like that. The clay, which carries a particular color in Trinidad, it's almost the invisible snake. And because of its small size, it makes it even more difficult. And then, of course, very stealthy movements. It just literally tries to stay under as much covering as possible. So this snake could slink around your yard for years, decades, and you won't even know. It's not going to make itself seen. Its prey items would be stuff that you have no interest in, tadpoles, small fish like guppies, even small lizards. They'll have to be pretty small, and even worms, and sometimes even
the coloring on that, the pattern.
Right. Sometimes even other smaller snakes. So it is a beautiful, beautiful snake, and that's just about full grown. You get a little bigger, you get a little chunkier, but that's just about it there for that snake. So that snake, amidst some stuff, just disappears. It just vanishes. It just vanishes. So I like to play tricks when I'm displaying this snake to try and show people how, one, stealthy it is.
It is.
All right.
Yeah.
And you get it off the table as a trick, so I'm going to have to let it just literally slide onto my hand if it wants to. There you go. So it's quite a beauty. And I mean, if you can really get in the patterning on the head and going back between the black, orange, and yellow, it's just amazing. And this is a Trini, the invisible Trini, as I like to call him. He's there, but you don't know he's there.
You said this is more or less fully grown?
Yeah, this is an adult. It's an adult. I think it's a female. We looked at it. I think it was a female.
How did you guys come across this snake, though, if it's...
Well, unlike most people, we pay attention and look for stuff all the time. You're not looking for it.
No.
When we go out there, we are looking for it. You know, sometimes we do get calls that somebody would see it accidentally when it makes a venture across. A lot of people are concreting their yard now and tiles and so on. So when he makes his way across a smooth surface like that, that's very distinct, you get a chance to see it. And, you know, people call us, you know, I have this big snake across my tile in my gallery or something like that there. And this is the big snake. This is what they would consider, you know, and dangerous, it looking like a mapipi. And you watch that, you wouldn't believe the comments, and you know, we get when people encounter these animals, but they're just out there eating smaller snakes, and there are smaller snakes, and hopefully we have them on soon.
They're small, and they get smaller than this?
Yeah, they're smaller than these.
You would think at that point they're probably legless lizards.
I don't know. Well, they will eat that too if it's small enough. Once it's small enough and it can overpower you, has a lovely appetite for fish, guppies, really tadpoles, small lizards. I've seen it devour small lizards. It's just amazing. It is just amazing the way these guys move.
I'm just actually taking a look at the movement, and you're seeing that like the constant S, you know?
Yeah, well, he's doing that because she's on a nice smooth surface. You want to
sure.
Keep your hand there. See if you relax enough, he's gonna relax.
Soft. He's
also.
like,
yeah, there we go.
Wow.
There we go. So just keep giving him a place to go, and he would just think that he's doing his movements and stuff like that.
He actually feels like none of the other snakes we've had before. This guy feels...
He's so soft.
Yeah, it's very soft and a bit rubbery, as you just described it. Why is his tail moving like that? That's just him trying to find a grip.
Yeah, wants to hold on with it there to something there. He's trying on your watch and stuff like that. But these are Trinis, and we need people to know and understand they are amongst the 49 registered established species of snakes that we have here in Trinidad.
49?
49, yeah.
And you know, growing up, all we knew about is rainbow boa, mackerel, mapapie, and coral.
Right? Yeah, we have 49.
Wow.
49. And we hope to, in time, have the opportunity to present each and every one of them. Some, on the very high and sought after list for anybody doing herping, but these guys are just they're amazing. They're, like I said, they're your neighbors, they're your roommates and so on. They live amongst your homes and around your plants. You have your little greenhouse. It's there hiding between the flower pots, or even sometimes in the flower pot. And sadly, my first encounter with one, I harmed it because I was actually tending to my plants. And this small shovel, the little micro shovel we used there, I cut the tail when I inserted it because he was in there and the loose stuff and so on there.
Did that pose a threat to the snake? Did it kill the snake in any way?
Well, we released it. I would believe that the snake probably did not make it after that day, but at that point in time, we believed that it would have made it, a little iodine on it and so on, and set it free. And but like I said, these are the people in our neighborhood. And it's important to understand they're part of the ecosystem. Their job is important. You're complaining about the lizards that come and eat your orchid flowers. Well, these are the guys who eat the lizards. Even the cat-eye eats those lizards and keep them. They're going to eat all. Mother Nature doesn't destroy everything. She's about balance. And that's what we humans need to understand. It's about balance.
And given the size of these snakes, they would also have predators, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And I would assume that there may be other bigger snakes that would consume it.
Correct. So you'll have larger snakes that will eat them, larger lizards that will eat them as well.
Larger lizards.
Yeah. So we have a lizard, local lizard called the tego or the mat.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. They will the mat has an insatiable appetite. He'll eat almost anything. Small snake like him definitely will make a nice little meal, a little appetizer.
Yeah. Even a male Zandali will chop them down like spaghetti, and then birds. One of the most amazing pictures I've seen, King of the Woods, which is the Trinidad mutt, the blue crown mutt, with one of those.
I've never heard of the mutt.
King of the Woods.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
In Trinidad and Tobago, we have something called currency, Trinidad currency, the money.
Yeah.
What bird is on the $1 bill?
The cockroach.
No.
Scarlet ibis.
Correct, scarlet ibis. What is on the $5 bill?
I made a guess.
$5 bill. Nobody gets it. $5 bill is the King of the Woods, or the Trinidad.
Hold on. I have to be honest with you, though, guys. I have not paid too much attention to the new currency. So
it hasn't changed in
millennia. I haven't paid new year, so I can't tell it was only $5.
Whether it's new or old, the birds have remained the same.
The mutt.
Yes.
I'm definitely going to have to look at that now.
Yeah, and you see the snake, this doctor snake, beautiful drip from the bird's beak, because he would eat almost anything. That bird,
I honestly, you would be amazed. I really have to now go look at the $5.
And that's something, I would like to deal with that in another issue, another episode, because it's strange. Trinidad is a funny country. When they change the money, everybody's complaining. Oh, they did 5 look like a 10, the 10 look like a this and that there. You know that nobody in the world makes a mistake with American money? What color is American money? All the same green, all. From a $1 bill to a $1,000 bill, all look alike. Nobody makes a mistake. Nobody complains that, oh my gosh, I gave the driver 100 instead of 1. It never happens. Okay? So for American money, you can look at it. But Trini money, you just have colors flashing. But it's not just color splashing. We have birds. Every currency note is represented by a different bird.
I know that even the coins, you've got the hummingbird. You've got the kiskadee on one. It's the dollar bills as well.
No kiskadee.
So then, what am I looking at?
See,
I'm not paying attention. Am
correct.
I? I look at myself. I say I'm a patriot, and this man is just. He's schooling me on air this morning. I probably deserve it.
That's what Wild Wednesday is about, educating you on Trini matters.
No, that's
that come around with wild life.
That's actually a very good lesson because it just goes to show. I mean, do we really even pay attention to these things? I guess I've a lot of lessons to learn.
Yeah, the $5 is probably the most used currency note in Trinidad right now. The most used currency note, even more than the dollar. Okay, because of the price of things now. You hardly
even newspapers, what, $4 now?
Right, yeah. So unless you shock out 4 singles, you put a 5, you get back your dollar. And people don't know. So I was telling the kids, so we do something called a money game when you go to schools, where we have one of each currency, and I tell them, here's what. Well, if you get it right, you get the money. I've never lost. I have never lost. They get the $1, that's easy. I said, all right, you start off good, that's $1.
You know
when they get to the $5,
he goes and he studies these things before playing that game. You know?
I knew this millennia ago. Even before, you know, like you're too young to probably know about the $50 scandal. There's a $50 bill that they were coming out with, and because of some impropriety, they had to cancel that bill. The money was basically stolen before it was released for the most part.
Oh, well, Trinidad is a funny place.
Right, so the $50 bill was basically cancelled. Okay.
No, I knew about the old $50 bill before we had the, for our independence anniversary, we had the launch of the polymer $50 bill. So I knew about the old one, but I didn't realize there was a scandal involved.
Before that, yeah, with money matters, you know. Going to the Central Bank Museum is an amazing thing also. Eh? They have a money museum there and you can learn about money. You think money is just there and that.
No.
There's a lot of history behind it, and there's a lot of history on the notes itself.
So
and
Jeremy,
it's good to know that.
So Jeremy, before we get caught up in this making sense of dollars and dollar bills, these guys, their defense mechanism, if they come across, or if predators come across them, I mean, they might not spot them in time, but what are some of the defense mechanisms?
First defense mechanism, especially with these snakes, they'll mask, especially if it's a predator.
So camouflage?
Well, no, masking. So what they do is they secrete like anal fluid.
I thought he said masking. I was like,
no.
Musk. Yeah.
Or like
Elon Musk.
Yeah, M-U-S-K. Right. So the musk is like a cloacal fluid, right? It smells horrible, right? And essentially what they do is that they take their tail and they, especially if the predator catches them.
You're talking about that snake you have there, right?
And the one that you have, all snakes do it. All snakes do it.
Don't pee on me.
Right? The second defense mechanism obviously will be to bite, and then, you know, but most importantly, they just always try to get away. Right? These guys are a lot faster. Yeah. So if they see a predator, they look to, you know, get out of it quick. Now, if they have to defend themselves, they will. They'll strike and whatnot. And again, the strike is just more to be like, hey, a bigger bad, I could possibly hurt you.
Given the size of these snakes, though, as you said, they're faster. Do you find them up in trees at all, or are they more so on the ground?
More so ground dwelling. Is not uncommon, especially for the cat-eyed snake, to see it in like low bushes and trees, but not very, very high. They wouldn't go very high on a tree, right? They tend to stay more low level and on the ground, yeah.
So, Ricardo, these guys, where across Trinidad do you find them? Like, you just said these guys you could probably find everywhere. Probably in your back garden and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
What about the cat-eye?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Every single way. This is the most get into my garage, get into my bedroom snake that there is, because they're so slender. I remember there's a big specimen. We usually find them smaller. I remember I think it's Bristol Air Services at a car park up by the airport.
Yeah.
And we got a call. Lots of snakes everywhere. Went there and there's a piece of plywood. So they lay eggs. So a mother would have laid the eggs there under the plywood, and they've gotten the warmth of the sun on the plywood and so on. So they hatched. So there were 6 of them that we recovered. Some made it through the fence and across to the bush. We recovered 6 that day from that car park because they had some old ply stuck down and so on. So that's part of the reason I tell people, you know, you don't go throw in black disinfectant about the place to get rid of snakes. Clean up your home. Get rid of all the rubble. You have stuff piled up, old galvanized, old plywood and so on. That's homes for all sorts of different things.
Almost every house has that, boy.
Right, and that's why we have to go through these cleaning exercises to minimize. So I've gone into some homes and I had to run. I had to run, you know. A little lady called me, you know, I've seen snakes and so on all the time. When I got in there, the grass is up to my neck. There are coconut trees and branches. It's a mess. And she's like, you know, the children are gone and nobody's here to help me and stuff like that. I said, Moms, you got to find a way to get your place cleaned up because you're putting yourself at risk. You're attracting all sorts of different things. So the things that could have been there. Besides the wasp, there were a lot of wasps around. You had a lot of spiders around. You could have centipedes around. You could have scorpions around. You know, the different types of snakes that she's petrified of, but she's basically created a home environment for them. And her place, her place is stark contrast to the neighbors. So I said, talk to your neighbors, talk to somebody, get somebody to come and clean up this place because you're putting yourself at risk. And the risk would most likely be you're moving something in the backyard, or you go to the backyard for a dry coconut, you move a branch, you see the snake, you run, fall down, cut yourself up, nail in your foot, cut by galvanized, and the repercussions going forward for somebody with diabetes, it's terrible. All because you didn't clean up your place.
Jeremy, you ever nail in your foot?
Nah, never experienced that one before.
I've nailed in my foot before. It's terrible.
Yeah. I have, you know, I've had that many times. I have actually even put a nail in my slipper that ended up winning my foot too.
So you put it?
See, back in the days, we had a little rubber ding-ding, black little rubber slippers from Bata. And when where your toe, push toe, when it bursts, that little knob on the bottom would always wear from you walking. You take a 2-inch headless nail and you would push it through. And then you drop that on the ground and you're walking with that. But sometimes that nail can twist. And with a bad step now, you step in on that very nail. It happened to me a couple times. It happens to a lot of people sometimes. It just twists in there. Fortunately, we don't have to go through this anymore here in Trinidad, but imagine there are people in other parts of the world going through that.
Yeah, that's hard. Jeremy, are these guys, I'm curious because we've had multiple snakes on this program before. Mm-hmm. Now, we know they don't necessarily have ears. They are more so a deal with heat and sensing heat and movement, but are they sensitive to sound?
Yes, snakes are sensitive to sound, so yes. So they may not have ears like us, right, but they have internal ears. Now, because when snakes are on the ground, they may not hear and perceive certain sounds the way that we do, but they pick up on vibrations. Yeah, so if they're on the ground and you're walking towards them, they could tell, they could feel those vibrations. So that is how they essentially pick up sound, through the vibrations within the earth and the air and whatnot. Yeah.
If you come across one of these snakes, just leave it.
Just leave it, yeah. These snakes have no trust, like they have no interest in
But if they do find their way in your house,
no. If they find their way in your house, again, they could call us. You understand? They could call us, but again, they're not going to get in your bed and try to swallow you or just randomly be like, well, I'm going to bite you or chase you down. More than likely, they're just seeking shelter, seeking warmth, or they're coming after. Everybody in Trinidad, I'm pretty sure, has those lizards in their house. You know, sometimes you open your bathroom door and you see it in the corner and just scurry across or whatnot.
They're getting bigger and bigger, by the way.
Yeah, so oftentimes it's those little animals that they're coming after, you know?
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but a great removal device, and they're selling them quite cheap in every grocery and pile on the corner, the little scoop and broom. They work. You're laughing. They work perfectly.
No,
you know, because I've gone to people's homes and I've seen the snake in the corner and so on like that. And I said, "Do you have a scoop?" She's like, "Yeah." Scoop and broom into the scoop, hold it there with the broom, take it outside, release it. It just wants to get outside. So it's trapped in your tiled room and trapped in the corner, and it doesn't know what to do. It just sort of stays there. They didn't expect that sort of environment on the inside. So it's caught up. It's, you know, you're afraid, he's afraid. Use the scoop, get him in there. So that way you don't have to hold it.
See, ever since we started doing Wild Wednesday, I've been trying to convince Ricardo and the two Jeremys. Yeah, I could keep a snake by me, you know, I don't mind. I have no issues, you know, keeping a snake by me, looking after it.
I'm living a single life.
And that's exactly what would happen if they were to say yes. Because if they said yes, I would graciously accept. But they have already been told no by somebody else.
The boss speaks, we listen to the boss. Your desires and petty whims matter not. And you know that too. This is in your interest.
Yep.
It's in your interest. It's for your good long term and your health.
And well-being, yes, I suppose so. Anyway, I mean, that's why I look forward to Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
But before we bid farewell, guys, anything else that we should know about these snakes? Anything else in respect to what people should be aware of?
Well, one thing I would want to mention, especially about the cat-eyed snakes, so I know I mentioned earlier, it is mildly venomous. This does not give people the right to just go killing these animals, you know, willy-nilly. Again, they cannot harm you, right? Though I said that they are mildly venomous, the venom is not designed to take down a human being, right? These animals, and they play an important part in the ecosystem.
Jeremy, you know, you're saying that, and I'm glad you're mentioning that, though they might leave venomous, remember they're not harmful. This guy, his tongue is as compared to the other things we've seen before, it's split, it's flickering quite fast actually. But I now have a better understanding as to why you call him the cat-eyed snake. Those eyes are quite big.
And he just must.
Yeah, I have it on my hand too.
Yeah, just must.
See,
it's a good thing it's television and not television.
This is where
the ammonia clears the
glad it's on your end. You
sinuses.
see, you've been good. You see, you've been really good. Thank you. Are you picking that up by chance?
Yeah.
Don't worry. You're safe here, buddy. Should we take you away from Ricardo and from Jeremy? You could come stay by me. Well,
all by myself.
Jeremy, Ricardo, guys, thank you so much. Thanks very much once more for joining us on the program.
Of course.
And Ricardo, you've got a message to share with the public before you say goodbye with respect to forest fires.
Yeah, always. Stop the burn. Time to learn. These animals too, and the reason why we want to highlight these two snakes, because you will probably now get an opportunity to see them. As the surrounding bush burns, these animals try to seek safety, and your home that is not burning, your yard, is in a perfect getaway or sanctuary for them. So you might say now, it's some kind of zombie or obia. We presented these two snakes on the show today, and then you go outside this evening or before the end of the week and you see them. It's just a logical thing. You will see them now because, one, you're made aware of them, and because the fires continue to rage, destroying their habitats, putting them and their lives at risk, so they have to now flee to safety. Your home represents sanctuary, so you will see them more. Your home, your school, your office, your building. We're getting inundated with calls for people, with animals, and wildlife that are just trying to remain alive. You know, people are trying to unalive them and they want to remain alive. So that's an opportunity for them to do that. The safety of your home, your school, office, and even sometimes the road, because the road wouldn't burn. It'll be hot, it'll be dangerous with the vehicles and people. But as far as they're concerned, when the side of the road is burning, the road is the safe area out to get out of the smoke and so on. So you will see more stuff, all kinds of stuff you probably didn't see before. So these are just two of the guys that you could now encounter. Normally hiding, but as that leaf burns, he is going to present himself for a visual opportunity. So do not harm them, please. They are absolutely harmless to us.
Why would you want to harm this guy? Look at those eyes. Why would you want to harm him? Jeremy Lewis, Ricardo, me, thank you very much once more for joining us in the program. Always a pleasure and always exciting. Ricardo has stuck to his promise of not bringing any cockroaches on AM Prime, and I'm most grateful. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, you know, there will be an opportunity.
There is never an opportunity.
For cockroaches, because even they play an important part in our ecosystem.
They do.
Yes, they help to identify cowards.
And that's... Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Keaton Shaw. This has been AM Prime. We'll see you again tomorrow. Ricardo, soon.
Next week.
Goodbye.
WESN.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our